As Shala said, I would love for this to be a discussion, and as much feedback as you can give, please do so, unmute yourself or raise your hand or in the chat any way. And we'll kind of leave this open and have it a more intimate discussion. I would love that. So a little bit about me. I am the VP of Product Development and have been in the tech industry for over 20-ish years at this point. I started coding right out of college and have done kind of service delivery operations, obviously product development, and obviously done lots of different things in 20 years. So in addition to that, I have been building a family at home. I have that's never part of your bio, right, when you're introducing yourself, but I have a family at home, a son and daughter and another daughter, 12, 10, and 7. And really my first intro into job sharing, I was pregnant with my oldest, and I had a coworker at the time, and she said, you should check out job sharing. Maybe, I couldn't fathom going back to work after having this little one. And she said to check job sharing out. So I kind of want to be that information for you today and talk about job sharing and have you learned a little bit. And really, this question on the main page here, do you feel like it could really be a possibility to kind of achieve that work-life balance that especially now everybody is talking about? So, a little bit of background first. We'll talk about the millennials. They get a bad name, but they really have a lot of really great ideals about what it is they want from work. And now in 2020, there is 50% in the workforce and 28% in leadership and management roles. And they are demanding more flexibility and more work-life balance from their employers because they really value their life and they want to make work fit into their life and not the other way around. Gone are the ideals about working for a company for 30 years and retiring from that company. Kind of to go along with that is the gig economy. 53 million people are currently freelancers, and I'm sure y'all know of people that are have a side gig, and more than 50% of the US workforce will be freelancers by 2027. So that number was really staggering to me. So really it just obviously goes along with that different way of working and being able to be flexible and not spend 60, 70, 80 hours in an office and figure out how they can live their life and work also to support it. We can't really talk about disruptive changes impacting the US workforce without talking about the pandemic. It has obviously forced them to think about work in different ways and being flexible with their people. It's funny, being in the tech industry, it ebbs and flows. There's, sometimes there's a lot that say, all right, we're back to the office. Everybody's back in the office. Nobody's working from home. But this pandemic has really caused employers to be more flexible and really kind of brought humanity back to the workplace, which is honestly, I think, one of the best things that's kind of come out of this. But it hugely disruptive changes when we talk about what work looks like going forward. And when we think about kind of employees who need to leave their careers for any reason, obviously a working mom who wants to take care of her newborn. And I had to put this as a second bullet because of all of the recent headlines. I don't know if you guys have seen them, parents who need to homeschool their kids. There have been a staggering number of parents that have decided they need to quit because there are literally not enough hours in the day to do all of the things, especially with homeschool. So, and another, obviously, retiring employees leave their careers. This is kind of hits home for me. My mom worked her whole life and it was time for her to retire. And, you know, she wouldn't do it. And you think about it, and I'm like, I can't imagine that now, but, you know, she works her whole life and gets to that point, and, you know, to think about going to work for however many 30 40 years and then, you know, stopping is maybe a daunting task. So to think about her being able to possibly share that job and kind of step out part-time and keep half of her foot in to kind of ease into that transition, it's a really powerful use case, I think. So when all of these employees need to leave their careers, obviously caring for ailing family members, this is going to continue to kind of be a more something that we continue to talk about as our population is aging, as a part of our population is aging. And what are the options really for employees? To spend 50 to 70% of the employee's salary to find a replacement. And even if you get the backfill and you get commitment to find this replacement, the resource, it is very resource intensive to get that person up to speed and onboard and train them to be able to do their job. So it's a significant investment to employers to be able to replace those employees. So enter the job sharing work model. This is when two job mates with common and complementary skills would share one full-time position. So there's a couple different flavors of this, I like to say. So a job split is common in the medical field. So nurses do this. Right here as an example, two dental hygienists. So there's, you know, they're pretty much completely independent. They're basically two part-time jobs, and, you know, there's not much overlap. There's not much handoff that needs to happen, right, when you think about sharing a job. In the middle here is a hybrid. So that is when two job mates share some responsibilities and split others. So maybe they are trying to hire a new leader of a particular business unit, and they want two leaders, one with a heavy technical background and one with another strong business background, and having those as a kind of hybrid approach to job sharing. They would obviously have their areas of expertise, but they would both be responsible for running the business together. And lastly, a pure job share represents two people doing essentially the same job during, you know, different days of the week or hours of the day, depending on what is kind of decided by the job mates. So this would be two data scientists or two software developers sharing a full-time position and, you know, working on the same project. And let's see, so specific use cases. So say I am an employee and I want to share my job. I decide that I need to homeschool my kids, and, you know, I want to share half of my job. So this employee would then register with the job sharing service and find their job mate, right? And then we would go to my manager and say, these are all of the reasons why this is a good fit. I, you know, want to stay here. I want to be able to continue the work that I'm doing at a very high level. And these are all the reasons why I want to share my job. And the second use case I like to call the unicorn. So an employer has an open position. So a recent one that kind of has come across my desk is, we want this one person to be a DevOps engineer, but we also want them to have a very deep expertise in this specific application that they're, you know, they're specifically working on. So essentially, you know, you've seen the job descriptions. They're very lengthy and there are lots of requirements, and this person does not exist in hiring, and if they did, we could never pay them enough to get them to come work for us. So, you know, if we think about hiring two people for that position, so say we hire the Java developer and we also hire a DevOps person, you know, that becomes a way for these unicorn positions that are, it seems like to me, increasingly popular to kind of fill that need and have basically two brains to share one job. So that would be really, really powerful, I think, use case. All right, let's see. Next, the third use case, a recruiter or headhunter has a full-time position to fill. They are basically open to filling a full-time position with a pair of candidates. So the other side of the unicorn example, right? So say instead of saying, I want this one person to fill all of these needs, I'm happy with a pair, whoever can do the job, wherever they are. This is what we're talking about in this specific use case. And so then the recruiter can use the job sharing service to post the job and search for a pair that are already paired up. And, the fourth use case is a pair of job mates looking for a sharing opportunity. So two people go to the job sharing service and they basically interview each other and they decide, yeah, we want to do this together. We are now a pair. And then they are looking for job opportunities for them together. Anybody have any questions? I want to stop here and see if anybody has any questions. Okay. So the benefits to employees and job seekers, this seems pretty intuitive, right? If you are sharing your job, you're able to have significantly more work-life balance than you did before. And 66% of employees feel like they lack that work-life balance. So by decreasing your hours at work and being able to really give a significant amount of time at work and give a significant amount of time at, you know, home, we'll say, it obviously increases your work-life balance and job satisfaction. You know, we see that we feel more satisfied when we can really give 100% to everything. Career continuity. So there's lots of times when people need to step out of their job for any reason, like we talked about before. Caregivers of children or aging family members, and professionals re-entering or looking to gradually exit the workforce, and really being able to provide that career continuity for them to be able to kind of keep their foot in the door. And, you know, after they decide that they, you know, the kids are old enough or the ailing family is well enough, then we can kind of step back in if they choose to do that. Diversity and inclusion. This is a big one. Women in tech, obviously you all are, and it's so important. The numbers are pretty sad. So 71% of job seekers consider workplace diversity an important factor when considering an opportunity. So if, you know, we can keep more people in their job, more moms in their job, and really be able to provide that, you know, not cheerleader, but that, you know, advocacy amongst the women in the workforce is going to continue to be kind of really important. And, you know, the way I think about it, if I find a job mate, you know, the way I think about it is really, this person is your advocate. You guys are working together and you are moving towards a common goal, and they should be your biggest advocate and you should be their biggest advocate, because your success is their success and their success is your success, right? So it's a pretty powerful relationship. And when you think about being able to further each other's career and maybe give that person a little push when they need it, and vice versa. It's pretty powerful thing to think about, I think. Benefits to employers. So this is, not, there are lots of challenges, which we'll talk about next, with the employers, but there's also immense benefits that may not be quite so in your face. So obviously 2 brains on the job leads to a faster and better problem solving and higher productivity. When you have, there's been so many studies that talk about this. When you have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and argue with and, think about a different perspective, you are going to come to a better solution in the end, and be accountable to each other and have higher productivity. Having 2 people, 2 brains is obviously significant to the employers. Kind of to go along with that, more combined years of experience. That kind of goes without saying. When you have, as much as I didn't want to believe that how much experience matters, it really does when you're thinking about somebody with maybe 10 years of experience, but maybe saying a job share person, you have 20 years of combined experience, and they're different experiences and they're valuable experiences. And that becomes really valuable when you're talking about contributing to an employer. Complementary skills. So say, one of the individuals is really gifted at speaking in public, or one of them is a really gifted in data analysis. So those kinds of complementary skills and that unicorn type is really difficult to find in kind of one person, and thinking about 2 people sharing, that's really valuable. And business continuity. When we think of it from an employer's perspective, obviously it's really important. Say one of the job mates go on vacation, and maybe the second job mate is like, yeah, I'll pick that up. I'll work for you this week. So from a business perspective, they are very happy that they have somebody answering the emails and fulfilling the job while you're gone. But from an employee perspective, how powerful it would be to be able to disconnect from vacation. I know that I vacillate back and forth. If I take a vacation, sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm going to check in, because when I get back to work, I don't want to answer 1,000 emails, right? And, if you are one that maybe on vacation, you check your emails, to being able to actually take that time off, because there would be somebody doing your job, and you wouldn't be able to come back to, or you wouldn't have to come back to a mountain of emails. That is a pretty big benefit to an employee as well. So it's not mutually exclusive there. So other benefits, obviously higher levels of job satisfaction. Like I said, when you are able to kind of put more energy into whatever it is that you want to put it into, and more energy into your job, your satisfaction in general is, you're much more balanced and feel happier in general. Retention and attraction of talent. So 67% of employees would consider leaving their employer if the workplace flexibility was not offered. So if you think about an employer being able to offer this to their employees and say, yes, I understand that you maybe right now need to step out of your job because you want to pursue another passion, or you want to go back to school. Giving that employee the flexibility to be able to do that, sends a pretty powerful message to the employee, and an investment in general, that they're investing in you. They appreciate your work, and they're willing to, share your job while you are, pursuing something else. So retaining and that talent is obviously would be increased if their employees are able to share their jobs. And reduce cost to rehire, obviously, since there will be lower attrition in general, because rather than stepping all the way out of their career, they can share their job, so they would retain those employees. And next, really, I wanted to talk about the challenges. There are some challenges, obviously, with this. It's a new working model, and while it has really gained a lot of following in Europe and the UK and even some in Australia, it's relatively quiet here in the US. So there's some challenges when you're doing a new thing. Employers need to kind of have the policies and the infrastructure in place to implement this model. They need to have discussions about compensation and health insurance, and maybe even what job model, which flavor of job sharing is going to work for them. Are they going to do a pure job sharing? Are they going to do a hybrid mode where they're going to kind of put two different people together? So they need to have all of those conversations. What's going to happen at performance management and appraisal time? And so those are all of the things that need to be, talked about at the corporate level before this can kind of be an option. And another pretty big challenge, obviously, is this is a different paradigm for people, right? If I think about sharing my job, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about and figure out before we do this successfully. How are we going to make decisions? How are we going to do email? How are we going to hand off? What's the mode of communication? And very simply, how are we going to split our time? Are you going to go in the mornings and I'm going to go in the afternoons, or are we going to do it days? So all of those discussions are something that need to be kind of ironed out before you undertake this job pairing role. So enter job pairing, talent pairing for job sharing. So this is a two-sided platform that implements this exact job sharing work model. So if you can see here on the left, you see the job seekers. They log in and create a profile and put their industry and their expertise in, and then they are matched with compatible professionals. And the next step would be to connect and basically interview all of these possibilities, right? So you're looking to kind of form a pair, form a unit, and figure out what the next steps are for you after that. So figuring out what works for you and interviewing basically that person on whether they would or wouldn't be a good fit, depending on your job, depending on your schedule, depending on your needs. And so then once you find your pair and what works for you and your job and what you're trying to do with your career, then we can match the candidates with the jobs. And on the right-hand side is the employer. So they can obviously create an employer account. They can post jobs and search for existing pairs to fill positions already, if that makes sense. And lastly, for job seekers, being able to access positions that are available for pairs is really important. There are companies out there that are offering this, but you don't really hear about it unless you really, really dig. You don't know it's an option. So big companies, Dell, Qualcomm, GE, there was an article while we were researching about two executives at GE that have done job sharing for like 20 years, and their experience is really interesting and something that is obviously groundbreaking. Not many other people are doing it, so it's really interesting. And also obviously finding compatible job mates. So somebody that wants to share their job and fits with you and what you, like I said, what you kind of need for your job and your career. We talked a lot about the challenges for the individuals and figuring out what works and how they're going to successfully work together. And this templates and tools section of the job pairing site is really, really valuable to have those conversations both with yourself and with the individual. So what do I need to think about for myself to make this a successful arrangement? And what are the questions that I need to ask? What are the questions I need to ask to my potential job pair? So all of those things and all of those, there's a ton of really good information and knowledge in that section of our site. And for employees, when we talk about value proposition, access to these mutually vetted and compatible pairs. So they'll be able to see when you pair up with somebody, they'll be able to see you as a pair. And like we talked about, when you know that unicorn position, if they can go through and select everything that they need and be able to have access to those pairs, that's pretty awesome. And more combined years of experience than needed. We talked about that already. And complementary skills. Business continuity is a really big one for these employers. They, you know, it's important. There's lots of projects that don't, as you know, they don't stop when you're on vacation or they don't stop when you're away. So business continuity is really important. And then lastly, improving the talent acquisition and retention strategy. Sorry. So I think that is it. I blew through a lot of that. And I would love if you think of a question later to email me, but I'd love to open it up and I'd love to hear your feedback on, you know, our original question was work-life balance, can job sharing help? So I'd love to hear your feedback on if you think it could help.
You can come off the mute and you know, just make any comment, or if you feel more comfortable, you can also include it in the chat window. Either way is fine. So I'm monitoring chat window. So while we're waiting, you know, Megan, maybe I ask you a question. You did talk about, of course, that was a challenge for the employer on the compensation promotion side, for example. How do you have any idea, for example, you know, on the promotion side, how does it work for the pure, you know, job sharing versus the hybrid? Anything in your study?
Yeah, exactly. So when you think about promotion, and it depends on what type of arrangement was initially negotiated with the employer, right? So if there's a pure job share, these two people, I think of them as twins, right? They are kind of interchangeable. So when I think about the pure job share and what the promotion and compensation and cycle looks like for them, it should be taken as a pair, right? And they should be evaluated as a pair and not individually. Therefore, they should also be promoted as a pair. So if we're talking about more of a hybrid or a job split, I would say that they probably should be evaluated individually and not together as a pair. So I think that it really depends on what flavor of job sharing it is before you can decide what your promotion path or what your career path looks like.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Anyone has questions?
Thanks for all the wonderful talk and sharing this new concept, right? Because I wasn't aware of it much in detail earlier. So I was just curious, like typically, how does it work in terms of like maybe the bigger firms, are they going for the job sharing option?
Yes, there are definitely big firms out there, and you would never know that this is an option. It's just kind of baked into their policies. But GE, I talked about those two women executives. They allow job sharing, and Dell, Qualcomm. There's some big names, and also we've seen a lot of universities as well that kind of offer this. The challenge is kind of finding those roles that
Right.
qualify, and that's something that we hope to help with, obviously.
Okay. So in order to help with that, so what would be the best way? Would be just to check the website for the new options?
Yep, exactly. So if you go on, you can create a profile, and there is a job section. Then after you create the profile and validate your account and everything, there's a section for jobs.
Okay, thank you for the info.
Sure.
Interesting, Megan, you talked about some of the private, companies that they are now sort of, offering the job sharing. But what I guess, also maybe on the federal government, looks like job sharing has been pretty much in play. Anything you can talk to on the government side?
Yes, that's a good point. I forgot to mention that it's been something that has been in place for a very long time, both at the federal level and even at some state levels. There is programs that are in place for exactly this, but um, again, you would never know it unless you kind of were looking for it. But yeah, that's a really good point. The federal government and the state government levels, the jobs are open to job sharing.
Any other question? Um, Megan, I guess there was a session on this topic yesterday in a different platform, and I remember one of the questions that came from audience was around approaching their employer, because there are so much concern right now that how would I even approach my employer if I have a full-time job and I want to be a part-time? Any thought on that? Anything that can
Yeah,
think
it's
would be the best
it's
way? Mm-hmm.
it's a good question, and I think, as with anything, it's in how you frame your negotiation, right? If you're coming in and you're saying, I have a lot of reasons why everything is telling me that I should put my career on hold full time. I like this. I like my company. I like my job. I was searching for other ways that we could make this work while I am taking care of whatever it is that I need to take care of. So in really framing it in a way that you are committed to the company and you're committed to your job, and because at the end of the day, that's the case, right? Anybody can kind of leave their job if they choose to, but this is a intentional choice to not step out. So I want to continue my career. It's important to me, and that's kind of all of these reasons why I was hoping that I could share my job. And obviously, once you go in, you can be prepared with, this is how we envision it to look, to make it seamless for you, right? We're going to do all of the handoff on the backside. We're going to have this whole process, and it should be seamless from the team's perspective. It should be seamless from the manager's perspective. And really, we think that it's an opportunity for you to even get even more performance and more productivity out of this one resource.
We have a comment questions in the chat from Sahar. It says, thanks for the talk. This is also a new concept to me as well. I am also wondering if there is a fear in your job getting stolen or taken over by your partner. If they do a better job, or in case the company has layoffs, it seems like they would pick one person.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really good question. And obviously, we would hope that, you know, when you're vetting this person and you're having conversations and interviewing, that and that's where the templates and tools come in to play here. Asking the right questions. So if there are any red flags and you feel like this person is going to throw you under the bus, that you kind of trust your instinct and pass on that individual. But, you know, things do happen, and it, you know, we would hope that that wouldn't be the case and that we would catch it before. But, you know, that's would be kind of an individual case by case with your manager and figuring out what that looks like. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Right. I mean, when in any situation, when you have more than one person, there is a concern with politics and, you know, the issues that may arise. But definitely, as you said, there are ways to mitigate it. Is there a, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and it may not be that much different than if you were just a team member with that individual, right? So it's the same, it's a challenge maybe even outside of the job pairing model.
Yeah, but at least in the job pairing, if you really, you know, go through some of those guidelines, as you mentioned, and vet your own, you know, pair, maybe the situation is even, you know, less risky than just, you know, other teammates. So I don't know. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, so I know how things would form, you know, even among your teammates.
Yeah, I agree.
You sort of force together.
Yes, and you know, I really do believe that the productivity of two people, even half-time, is going to far, far, far exceed that of an individual contributor. So I can't, my hope is that, you know, that pair would be the last person on last position on the list to be eliminated because they have performed so highly because there's two people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know if there would be a more structured way of vetting your partner, you know, on the compatibility or any of those assessments than just reading the guideline?
Yes, so we are also working on a compatibility test. So we have taken help from a very intelligent PhD to help us with what is compatibility like. This is really kind of a new obviously we talked about a new paradigm, but what makes a successful pair? And so we're hoping to figure that out and kind of allow each individual to take compatibility tests and then give them a score on, we think you're 80% compatible. Will there ever be 100% compatible? No, but you know, you're maybe more compatible with this person and less compatible with this person. So that will be part of the platform also, which is really exciting. I love that kind of stuff.
So you can actually pair with more than one.
Yes.
In that platform. Okay. Very good. Any other question? Now we have a few more minutes. If you have any question, this is your opportunity to raise it. But of course, I can, Megan, you were offering your email in case anyone interested to talk to you or contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions or comments, please reach out and let me know. I would love to hear your feedback. If you want to do it in a private manner, I am open to that. Please let me know.
Excellent. If no other question, we give you few minutes back. And I thank you, Megan, that was excellent. Appreciate that. I know this is the new work model, but that is how every innovation happens. So it's for us to really believe in it and demand it from the market, because I think that would be a great opportunity to make this work-life balance a reality without, sacrificing our career. As a woman, we all been there, and we know what it takes to stay, current with your career and to try to have a, raise a family as well. So this time is even more important than ever. So it takes all of us to really push this one forward. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for attending. Go ahead, Megan.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.